Hi there, my name is David McCarthy, and this is my presentation on reflective work-based practice in education and training. This presentation will be discussing the underrepresentation of children with disabilities in primary schools in Ireland. So you might be wondering, why is this presentation important to me? Well, this presentation is particularly important to me because I have a true passion for helping those in need. I believe that everyone should be treated fairly and given equal opportunities in life. So I chose this topic of funding in primary schools for people who have additional needs or disabilities because I have family members and friends in my close circle who are in fact disabled and have experienced discrimination in the primary education sector. So a bit of personal experience that I have. Well, I went to an all boys school, primary school in Colester, which is my local one. There's without a doubt a lack of support for students with additional needs in the classroom. For example, there wasn't any sensory rooms or additional needs rooms where kids could be taken out and given the additional help that they need in order to excel and develop, whether cognitive or academic. I had classmates who had additional needs and they struggled to navigate around the school. So they furthermore would experience exclusion in certain activities. So these classmates of mine that I once had, for example, they would have tackled problems like you might come across stairs in the school. Obviously, these kids wouldn't be able, who are in wheelchairs, wouldn't be able to get up the stairs, so they'd be stuck and they'd be made go to the classrooms downstairs. So they would be in fact excluded from the rest of the class and ultimately treated differently. Furthermore, in classes like PE, for example, if we're doing football or basketball, it's very hard, from what I saw from the teacher, to integrate the students who have additional needs in the wheelchair into the class. But now, while taking this course, I understand there's different methods and ways and teaching strategies to integrate the students so everyone's equal and can play a part in activities. But I noticed there was a challenge, if you will, with including people with additional needs in classes like PE. So, furthermore, I did placement as part of this education and training course, and I observed neglection for the struggling children in the classroom. So, there is without a doubt a need for more SNAs in the classroom to be able to assist the teacher in not only controlling the class, but being able to give the students who require additional needs the support they deserve and the support they need in order to excel. So, why is this topic relevant today? Well, it goes without saying there is simply not enough special needs schools in Ireland, and children all over the country are being abandoned and left without a school to go to. So, the government needs to invest more in this sector and build more schools for these vulnerable children. So, according to Coin in 2024, there are quote unquote hundreds of children left without spots in additional needs schools because the number of applicants has soared. So this is simply unacceptable, and it's really high time that change happens and these children are both heard and catered to. So I personally hope to be a voice for the underprivileged in this sector of the education sector, and pursue influence and change to the best of my ability. So, what are the positives on the current representation of people with disabilities in primary schools? Well, there is policy and legislative support. So, the Education for Persons with Special Education Needs, the EPSEN Act in 2004, has been a major policy milestone in Ireland, aiming to provide students with special educational needs access to a full education in mainstream schools where possible. So this act basically promotes the inclusion of students with disabilities, and it ensures that the schools provide the necessary supports to facilitate this inclusion. So the Department of Education and Skills in 2004, although some of the parts of the Act have not been fully implemented, it remains a cornerstone of inclusion education policy in Ireland. So the NCSE has played a pivotal role in advancing inclusive education in Irish primary schools. Through research, advice, and the development of frameworks, the NCSE supports the implementation of inclusive practices. So, notably, the Inclusive Education Framework in 2014 and the guidelines on the individual education plan process have been instrumental in providing schools with the necessary tools and guidance to support students with disabilities. That's according to the NCSE in 2014. So these documents basically emphasize the importance of creating inclusive environments where all children, regardless of their abilities, can thrive and excel and develop. So the government's adaptation to autism in the classroom. So during the period 2011 to 2016, the number of pupils with an autism spectrum disorder, ASD, diagnosis increased by 83%. This is really high. So this highlights the need for additional resources for these students. The implementation of sensory rooms proves indubitably impactful for students with autism and their development in the classroom. According to the journal, there are over 14,000 students with autism in primary schools in Ireland. However, there's only 2,184 sensory rooms. So this isn't enough, and these students deserve to be assisted and given an equal chance to excel in school. Furthermore, the government only invests €7,000 annually to schools approved with multi-sensory rooms. This needs to be increased, and there needs to be more investment to create more sensory rooms in order to foster and cater to these children with autism to excel. So my own personal views of this issue and what could be done in the future. Well, I think there needs to be, it goes without saying, an increase in government funding to schools for the sensory rooms and additional needs SNA rooms to be built. I think there needs to be more special needs schools. As outlined earlier, there's a big misalignment between the number of applicants for special needs schools and the number of actual special needs schools to cater to the big numbers of these students applying. I think there needs to be an increase in society for people with disabilities, you know. And it goes without saying the pay for SNAs needs to be increased. So this is a plan that we could maybe implement to, you know, to grab the people's attention, to get them into this sector, make them interested in this job, because the more SNAs we have, the more students we can help, and that's the goal. I believe as a society, we should expose this discrimination that we've highlighted, and active neglection is the only word I can use towards these children who just want an education. So what's the plan of action for the future? I believe that through being vocal about the issues facing the people of Ireland who have disabilities, change can occur. I feel that if the government increased the current €7,000 grant for sensory rooms in the approved primary schools, the facilities for these students will be adequate, and we may see an education system in a position where one may perceive it as fair amongst all students, or without disabilities in one's it'll be fair amongst all students with or without disabilities in one's cognitive, social, and physical development in the classroom. Furthermore, I believe that there should be an increase in the rate of pay for SNAs to encourage more people to work in the sector to cope with these increasing numbers of children with the need of additional needs. So I think we need to implement flyers, posters, manifestos to spread awareness. Furthermore, to bring attention to the increase needed in the funding, there can be protests and we can complain directly to the government. And for the increase in salaries for these SNAs, protest is also the answer, I believe. Peaceful protests. And these are my references here. I'd like to thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you learned something from this video and attention was brought to this big major issue in Ireland.